الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. 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 أشهد أن محمدًا رسول 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 الله. حي على الصلاة. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. حي على الصلاة. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. حي على الفلاح. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. حي على الفلاح. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. حقا لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدًا عبد الله ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق، ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم، وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. أما بعد. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. And we send our peace and blessings on this blessed Friday on our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. There's this concept in education that when you want to easily give a lesson, when you want to easily convey a message that's easily understood, that you give it to the person or give it to the people in the way of a story. And we know that in the Holy Quran, we are given the best of stories. And Allah tells us in the Quran, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَةً. Indeed, in this is a parable. Indeed, in this is a sign for you. لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. For those who have taqwa. One of the stories that the Quran mentions more than any other story is the story of our Prophet Musa alayhi salam. We know that in the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he was sent to Fir'aun and he was sent to save his people, Bani Israel. And Prophet Musa had a difficult time because not only was he associated and related to those who were oppressed as he was from Bani Israel, but he was also associated and related to the Pharaoh as he had lived under him for years. And we know that when Prophet Musa alayhi salam went to Pharaoh, the Pharaoh refused to accept the message. The Pharaoh refused to accept what Prophet Musa alayhi salam was preaching. We know that Prophet Musa was then ordered to take his people and leave. Prophet Musa was ordered to take his people and leave, and they left. He took all of Bani Israel and they left, and they had gotten all the way up to the sea. And as they get to the sea, they realize that there is no way, no easy way forward through the sea. And they come to realize that Fir'aun and his army are now chasing them and are not far behind. It is in this moment that Bani Israel begins to worry. And they say that we are lost, we are drowned, there is no way forward for us. They begin to openly worry. And Prophet Musa alayhi salam calmly responds to them. And it's told to us in Surah Al-Shu'ara, قَالَ كَلَّا إِنَّ مَعِيَ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينَ. He tells them, no, indeed my Lord is with me, He will guide us. Now Prophet Musa in this moment has full conviction, full trust in Allah. He understands that Allah will save them. But at that moment, in this moment, a high intensity moment, where not only are his people stressed, but he's stressed. He, as the leader of this group, is very stressed. He doesn't know what the way forward is. But it is immediately after that Allah tells us, فَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِ أَنِ اضْرِبْ بِعَصَاكَ الْبَحْرِ. And that we revealed to him to hit the sea with your staff. Now, in a high intensity situation like this, many of us would take a second before doing anything. But Prophet Musa alayhi salam didn't question what he was told. Even though he understands hitting the sea with his staff means nothing without the power of Allah, without the help of Allah. He understands this. But Prophet Musa in this moment doesn't question anything. He goes straight and he does it. And we know that once he did this, the sea split. And his people were saved. But not only were they saved because they had an escape, they were also saved because their oppressor was destroyed by that same stroke. The same sea that opened for them destroyed those who were chasing them, destroyed Fir'aun and those who were oppressing them. The Quran then takes us to another story, the story of a community of Bani Israel. This community and this story is told to us in Surah Al-Baqarah towards the end of the second juz'. It's told to us of a community, the leaders of the community go up to their prophet and they tell their prophet that we need a king, we need a leader. And they complain to their prophet and they say, we are being oppressed. We are being harmed by this other community, by this other larger force. And we need a king to help save us so that we can fight back, so we can defend ourselves. Now their prophet knows what types of people these are. And he tells them that, what if I bring you a leader and you guys refuse to accept him and you refuse to fight? And they promise their prophet that, no, we have to fight. Our families are being oppressed. Our children, our wives, we need to fight back. So their prophet brings them a man by the name of Talut. And now when Talut comes, Talut isn't accepted at first. He's not. Why is Talut not accepted? He's not from the right family. He's not from the right economic status. His family doesn't have money. How can he lead us? But Talut is able to assert his leadership. He's able to take over, and he makes sure that one of the first things he does is he takes the men of his community and they go to fight. They go to defend themselves. But we know that Talut didn't have too much time. Talut did not have too much time to go and train these men and make sure that they had discipline. So what does he do? The Quran tells us that he tests them. He tests these men. He tests them in different ways, but the main way, over water. And those who were not able to pass the test were asked to go home. They were told they weren't necessary. They weren't needed. Now this army was already very small. This was a small force, a small community. And he's sending people home. Now once his men finally reach the battlefield, those who passed the test, once they finally reach the battlefield, they see that the force that has come to face them that day, not only is it a larger force, much larger than them, but they are led by a man by the name of Jalut, or in English, Goliath. Now we know the name Goliath, or the term Goliath, is because of this story, is used to refer to not only someone who is huge, who is much bigger than everything else, but this man towered over all of them. He towered over everyone on that battlefield. Now as this army, the army of Talut, gets to the battlefield and they see this sight, a large army led by a large man, they say to themselves that there is no way that we will be able to defeat Jalut and his army today. The Quran says, قَالُوا لَا طَاقَةَ لَنَا الْيَوْمَ بِجَالُوتَ وَجُنُودِهِ. That there is no way we will be able to fight them today. There is no way that we'll be able to defeat them today. But immediately after, a group from within them, now this is a small group already, but a group from within them responds. And the Quran talks about them in a specific way, a very special way. The Quran refers to them as قَالَ الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُوا اللَّهِ. They're referred to as those who know that one day they will see Allah. They will be meeting Allah. They respond to them and they say, كَم مِّن فِئَةٍ قَلِيلَةٍ غَلَبَتْ فِئَةً كَثِيرَةً بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. How many times has a small force been able to defeat a larger force through the will of Allah? How many times? They look at their men, and this responding in this way motivates them all. And from there, not only were they successful, but one of the smallest people in the army, a man by the name of Dawood, who goes on to be our Prophet Dawood alayhi salam, the youngest person in this army is the one who defeats Jalut. The Quran then takes us to the story of a very important woman, Maryam alayhi salam, the mother of our Prophet Isa alayhi salam. When we talk about Maryam, it's a very important story. It's something that, the average person in a Western society knows of the importance of Maryam. We know that Maryam was a religious woman who was under the care of Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam. And we know that she was one day approached by an angel who informed her that she would be giving birth without having a partner, a virgin birth. And we understand that Maryam, a girl who has never been married before, a girl who has never been married, who has never given birth before, had to go through this process on her own. We know that she left her home and she went away to go give birth. And when she was in the pains in labor, that she began to despair. The stress had gotten to her. The pain had gotten to her. And in the Quran it tells us that she says, قَالَتْ يَا لَيْتَنِي مِتُّ قَبْلَ هَذَا وَكُنْتُ نَسْيًا مَنْسِيًّا. She says that I wish that I had died before this and that I had long been forgotten. That's how much pain she was in. The Quran tells us that then she was responded to. She was responded to and she was given her sustenance. In this time of labor, she was given her sustenance. She was given water and she was told how to get her food. And her food was given to her in the form of dates. Maryam was under a date palm tree. And she is told all she has to do to get her sustenance is to shake the tree. Now we know that if you're at the bottom of a tree, at the bottom of a palm tree, shaking it isn't going to bring the dates down. That's not how dates work. That's not how palm trees work. But furthermore, Maryam was not able to even stand up. She's in the middle of labor. She can't shake this tree. And it is told to us that what Maryam did is, in this moment, what she did her part. And she put her hand on the tree, and her sustenance came down to her. Maryam then was able to give birth to one of our most important prophets, Prophet Isa alayhi salam. And we know what Prophet Isa was able to do in his time, and the story of Isa and the story of Maryam afterwards. But these stories, these important parables and examples that are given to us in the Quran have a very important lesson, brothers and sisters. At the end of the day, we need to do our part and trust in Allah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وفي الآخرين وفي الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. Brothers and sisters, in every single one of these stories, Allah shows us the power of doing your part. We see in the case of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he was given an order and he followed. Even though the order might have been hard to understand for any of us, in a high stress situation, he trusted in Allah and he did what Allah told him to do. The only path in front of him, the only possible thing he could have done in that moment. And not only did it save him in that moment, but it destroyed his oppressor, so he did not have to worry about Fir'aun ever again. And then with Maryam alayha salam, with Maryam, she is given a very impossible task for her. She's in the middle of labor. She's told to shake the tree. And what does she do? She did the only action she could do. She touched the tree. She touched it, and her sustenance came down to her. And then in the story of this community, the people of Talut, this community knew that the only way forward was for them to defend themselves. And they made their intention and they went and did what they could. And when they finally reached the battlefield, and they were already a small force, and they were in despair, they were reminded one of the most important reminders, that at the end of the day, with Allah, everything is possible. But the description of this community, the description of this army, is something else. The description of this army, when it says that these people understood that one day they would meet Allah, they would have to meet Allah and they would testify. They would have to testify for what they did that day. Did they give everything they could? Did they do everything they could to protect their families? All they had to do was enter that battlefield and do what they could. Brothers and sisters, how many times do we think to ourselves, when we are dealing with our own stressful situations, do we think to ourselves that we will answer to Allah for what effort we put into it? For what we put into it? How many times do we think about this? We as a community, we have so many different problems. We have our own personal problems. We have our community problems. We have national problems. And we have international problems. And we as the American Muslim community are in a very unique place, because we see the oppression that is going on to our brothers and sisters around the world. And we have one of the biggest opportunities to do something about it. We live in the most powerful country in the world. And we are given tools as members of this country, as citizens of this country, to lobby and to work with our politicians and to say and to speak out against what's going on, and to make sure our country has a say in what's going on and is making sure that this oppression isn't continuing. Whether it's in China, whether it's in Pakistan, whether it's in India, in Kashmir, whether it's in Syria or in the Central African Republic, no matter where our brothers and sisters are who are being oppressed, we have the ability to speak out for them. But that responsibility grows when we talk about Palestine. When we talk about Palestine, not only is our country so involved in the oppression of Palestine, so complicit as the largest funder of Israeli apartheid, as the largest funder of the oppression in Palestine, but our responsibility is more because of what Palestine means to us. All the prophets I talked about today, all the people I talked about today, they were present in Palestine. When we talk about Palestine, this is the land. This is the land that when our prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam became a refugee and left his family, and he tells his people, "Inni dhahibun ila Rabbi sayahdin." Indeed, I am going to my Lord and he will guide me. He went to Palestine. When the prophet alayhi salam, our prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, was going through one of the most difficult times in his life, he was taken to Palestine. He was taken on al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. And he met the rest of the prophets, and he was able to lead them in salah, and he was able to ascend to the heavens after that. Palestine has been a place of healing and refuge for our religion. And it is the home of our third most holy site. In this present day and age, brothers and sisters, we see the oppression for the past 70 years has been continuing. We will be reaching 75 years next year of occupation and oppression in Palestine, where we see men and women are attacked as they are praying in Masjid al-Aqsa, where we see children are being murdered, journalists are being murdered, all with American taxpayer dollars. That is why our responsibility is so important, brothers and sisters. And many of us, in this case, when it comes to Palestine, we say, there's nothing we can do. We try to absolve ourselves of this obligation. But brothers and sisters, on the day of judgment, there is no way to absolve ourselves, because we are in a very good position. We are in one of the most important positions to help the Palestinian people and to help end the apartheid and oppression in Palestine as American citizens. As I mentioned, our country is the largest funder of the apartheid and the oppression in Palestine. And I come to you guys today from an organization called American Muslims for Palestine. We are a national organization based in Washington, D.C., and with chapters around the country that works to educate and advocate for Palestine here in the U.S. Right now, we're at a moment where more Americans than ever before support Palestinian rights. Right now, almost half of Americans believe that the U.S. needs to stop giving weapons to Israel. They believe that Israel has gotten to the point where they cannot take weapons from us because we can't trust how they're using these weapons. Americans also believe in sanctioning Israel until they follow human rights, international rights. Brothers and sisters, in the younger generation, among different minority groups, Palestine is more favorable than Israel is nowadays. And we've seen this trajectory change and change and change. And now we are in one of the best opportunities for us to work with our allies, work with people around this country to help end U.S. support for Israel. Our organization works on efforts like this, educating the American public, educating different people to make sure that people understand Palestine. There was a report that came out just a few years ago that said the more Americans learn about Israel, the less they support it, the more pro-Palestine they become. Brothers and sisters, our efforts are making a change. And many of us tell ourselves that, there's nothing we can do for Palestine. But brothers and sisters, we at American Muslims for Palestine are giving you the ability, giving you opportunities to do this work, inshallah. Brothers and sisters, I end with this very important reminder. We will one day have to answer to Allah for what we did for our brothers and sisters in Palestine. we will have to answer to Allah and we will have to say what we did. Brothers and sisters, we want to be able to not only answer to Allah on that day of judgment, we want to be able to answer to Allah and say, Ya Allah, we did what we could. We did our part. And Ya Allah, we thank you for blessing our efforts and giving us victory in this life and the next. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واعف عنا. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واعف عنا. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا اللهم فيما أعطيت. اللهم حرر أقصانا. اللهم حرر فلسطيننا وبلاد المسلمين أجمعين. Oh Allah, we ask you to make us of those who learn from these khutbahs and benefit, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Ya Allah, we ask you to make us of those of action who do their part for you, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Ya Allah, we ask you to accept from our efforts and to bless them, Ya Rabbal Alameen. قولوا قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
سووا صفوفكم يرحمكم الله. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. كذلك ما أتى الذين من قبلهم من رسول إلا قالوا ساحر أو مجنون أتواصوا به بل هم قوم طاغون فتول عنهم فما أنت بملوم وذكر فإن الذكرى تنفع المؤمنين وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون ما أريد منهم من رزق وما أريد أن يطعمون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. أفرأيت الذي تولى وأعطى قليلا وأكدى أعنده علم الغيب فهو يرى أم لم ينبأ بما في صحف موسى وإبراهيم الذي وفى ألا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى وأن ليس للإنسان إلا ما سعى وأن سعيه سوف يرى ثم يجزاه الجزاء الأوفى وأن إلى ربك المنتهى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Once again, my name is Mohamed Habehh, and I'm here today with American Muslims for Palestine. Some quick announcements. Inshallah, tonight we will be having a lecture at the NAMCC, inshallah, at 7 p.m. And inshallah, tomorrow after Fajr, we will be here as well. So please join us at either time, inshallah. Learn more about our work and learn more about how you can help support the work for Palestine and America. Jazakumullahu khairan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I got a few announcements. Please give me a few minutes of your time. Inshallah, tonight we will have weekly family night. We are calling a super family night tonight. We've got 3 different activities, inshallah. We have got local vendors coming tonight to our masjid. Please come over and support them. This is the first time we are doing that. Maybe there'll be 4 or 5 vendors with different cuisines come here and enjoy your family night tonight. We'll have members from Round Rock and LISD district board tonight for doing a meet and greet here. And then lastly, our own Imam Jawad will have his lecture, History Makers, Life and Times of Umar bin Abdul Aziz. This will be a great lecture, inshallah. Tomorrow, we have got 3 programs. Starting off around 1 to 3 p.m., youth program. That'll be by Imam Jawad. It'll be for boys and girls aged 11 to 17. Last 10 surahs, tafsir on last 10 surahs. Sisters program starting at 4 p.m. till 6 p.m. We are welcoming all the new sisters around ICBC area from 4 to 6 p.m. That's the sisters program. Guest lectures, a guest lecture by Ustad Amjad Mohammed. It'll be after Maghrib, and the topic is community information session about Austin Muslim Cemetery. And the dinner will be served. Lastly, we have a group from UT Austin, ALM, They have a bench outside. They're doing some little fundraising for their group. This is a Muslim Brotherhood group called Alif Lam Mim. And please support them by donating outside. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.